Welcome to the GTN show. We are out in Roth, Germany for none other than Challenge Roth.
Yeah, we are quite excited because we are actually taking part in the race. All of us together, we are doing the relay, and there's going to be lots more on that. But we've also got a lot of exciting stuff to see.
Yeah, we are going to be covering the pro race, so covering all the action from that, as well as doing a little tour around the expo here and trying to find some hot tech. Let's go, guys.
It's time for What the Tech.
All right, cool bit for you here. Now, I came across these guys at the expo last year, Challenge Roth. They are called Stealth Parts. They're essentially aftermarket hydration systems to go on the front end of your bike between your aero bars. They're incredibly well done. They essentially clip on to a bracket that you can attach to your existing stem. They slide on and off really well. And I've seen a lot of them this past year, actually, and you can find out which one fits for your bike by using an online tool. You basically measure up to find which one is right for your bike. They've got a number of different ones in their series, but they've just released a new one this year. It's called the S5. Now, specifically, this will fit slightly smaller frames, shorter stems. For instance, the Canyon Speedmax CF in a XS or an S with a 70mm stem. This will now fit your frame, whereas previously it was a little tricky to do that. But yeah, very impressed by their product. I've got to say, it's one that has really stood out to me, and I've seen a lot on bikes this last year.
Okay, we're now at the Never Second stand, and they make, obviously, nutrition is their whole thing, and all of their stuff has got 30 grams of carbohydrates in it, so that you can easily work out how many grams you need and how many you need to take to get the right amount of grams of carbs. And they've got this really handy graph for how long your race is. You can go all the way up to 3 hours, then you should be doing 90 grams of carbs an hour. It's pretty interesting, but what really caught my eye were these. They're energy gels with 30 grams of carbs in them, but they are designed to be frozen. Frozen energy gels, essentially like an ice lolly. And apparently, as it melts, it turns into like a slush puppy. Can you imagine taking a slush puppy halfway through the run on a day like today? I don't think I can think of anything better. I'm going to have to figure out a way to take these on the Roth run course tomorrow, because this is the best idea I've ever heard of. It's brilliant, as long as you can keep them cool, I suppose. I'm going to try these out, definitely.
Well, for this piece, we've come back to the Surpass stand because we have found this. These are their new aero calf guards with the rather infamous turbulators, which we're used to seeing on the suit sleeves. They've recently released these, and they've been tested from several athletes. Apparently recently tested in the wind tunnel with Josh Amberger and Ashley Gentle, and they found that combined with the suit, they were actually getting a 5-watt saving. So yeah, check these out.
I'm having to stand a little afar from this next item because there's some music pumping out by and a lot of excitement surrounding it, because we have Sebi Keenley's Scott Plasma in a custom colorway, and it's available for you to win. So roll some cutaways of that lovely looking bike. You can win it by heading over to vipprize.org/Scott. Donate some money for some lottery or ballot entries into that prize giving. That money will be donated to WWF and a children's education charity. The entries, I believe, are going to be open for the next week, and then the entries or the prize will be announced in a few weeks' time. There will also, if you miss out on this one, be another opportunity after Norseman. But this is really exciting. This is Sebi's last big long-distance race in Germany. And, well, even if the bike doesn't fit you, I mean, it's just an amazing bike. Get entering. And whilst we're talking about Sebi's bike, I actually just spotted these two straws coming out of his front aero bars and hydration system, which I thought was really interesting. Basically, after a bit of a investigation, one straw is going into this system here. This is actually a water bottle, which has a hydropack system on the front, so he can refill that on the go. So it's probably only about, I guess, 500ml, give or take. But this second straw would then have an attachment coming off the end here that then goes down into this section here and to the bladder in frame, which also, if I pull that up, can refill on the go. So just neat. A custom aero bar with really well integrated hydration, so really doesn't have to move from his position.
Well, you're probably aware of Swisside as being a wheel brand, kind of represented by all the wheels behind me. Now, they have just made their first foray into textiles. no points for guessing what. But it's quite interesting. They have approached with the same technology innovation and the amount of testing. So they started with this calf guard and actually just the calf mannequin in a small wind tunnel, took that onto a life-size still mannequin in a big wind tunnel, then they put it onto a life-size athlete in the wind tunnel and then outside. So there's been a huge amount of testing going through the different fabrics and the unique patterns for this dispensing the wind and making the more aero gains. Apparently this is the first of more ventures, so we're going to keep our eyes peeled. This has only just been released, and if you look closely on race day, we might see some of the pros who aren't necessarily sponsored by Swisside, but might be choosing to wear these calf guards, so keep an eye out on them. The savings, you probably want to know the numbers, on average apparently are tested at 45 kilometers an hour, at 4 to 5 watts, maximum being 8 watts. And if you are someone who, that's all tested compared to people who have shaved legs. If you're someone who likes to keep your legs nice and hairy, then you're probably going to see much bigger savings. So interesting to see this. See if you can spot anyone riding it on the weekend.
Okay, I thought I'd drop in on these guys because I featured them in our tech tour last year. This is called Hizo. This is a tailor-made custom cycling shoe, which basically you would scan your shoe through their mobile app, and within a week they'll be able to crunch all that data and bring together your cycling shoe, and then in a further sort of 5 weeks, give or take, you will have a shoe on your doorstep. And they've actually updated it ever so slightly since we last saw it, so it's a little bit more robust in its design, and it really does feel it. They've updated the sock ever so slightly too, so that's got a bit more cushioning towards the back. It's got this fidlock system so you can quickly get in and out. It's more nice and secure. This retails for about €649, and yeah, cool to see them still going and really looking good, and even actually got an ISPO award last year, so pretty neat. Well done them.
All right, I got pulled into the AG1 stand here. You might have recognized this from actually Sebi Keenley's Instagram. He's been promoting this, and basically it's like a super smoothie. So you take one a day, a glass of it a day, and you get all your greens. There's actually 75 ingredients in it, and I was expecting it to taste like green sludge, but it actually tastes really nice. So I might be stopping back past the stand a couple more times while we do our expo tour today. Cheers.
Well, after that whiz around the expo, we then headed to Transition to have a look at what the pros are putting on their bikes. And there were some interesting adaptations and new pieces of tech, which we are dedicating to a whole separate video, but we've chosen a few highlights just to include in the show today.
Yeah, some standout ones for me. I really, really like Sebastian Keenley's aero bar setup with like hydration built in, but notably, it was the two-straw design that allowed him to not only drink from that front hydration between the arms, but also through to the frame storage. So that was really cool. Also noticed a couple of fairings on some bikes, like Magnus's, which was quite large, actually. I presume it had a purpose other than being a fairing, but who knows? And then there were these tubical kind of design things on Andy Dreit's Cube, which is well, inspired by the ridges on a humpback whale's fin, which we also saw on Ghana's Pinarello Bolida TT bike, or track bike actually. And this was almost like a 3D printed part that went onto the Cube, which was quite wild. Also, we spotted Finellas on prototype shoes. And then also on the race day, we saw Patrick in some Adidas prototype shoes. Pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, it was very unusual, wasn't it, to see these being allowed at Challenge Roth, but I think we'll probably talk a little bit about that when we talk about the records and the race later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, this last week, Cube released a new triathlon bike. It is the C68X, which is a development on their previous C68. Now, we have actually kind of featured this bike already with Lucy Charles Barclays in Kona, but at the time, that was very much just a prototype, so we couldn't really do an in-depth dive on that. But that bike is released now, and it's got countless options for integration, storage and setup. So we've got in-frame hydration, we've got a big front hydration, but actually it's the versatility of that and how you can change it all around, which is pretty impressive. And I've actually been to the Cube HQ this past week to film a load of that with the bike. So stay tuned because we'll be doing an in-depth look on that bike.
Well, now we're cracking back on with our initial start point in the show, Reacts, what things we've spotted online. And we haven't had that much time to look at our phones over the last few days out here in Roth, but we have spotted a few pieces. And this first one comes from Gustav Eden. It's actually just a slightly sort of somber post. So you might remember that we did mention that sadly his mum passed away, and he's been quite open about that. And he raced on the weekend. He said, "My most emotional triathlon ever. Sat down after the finish line and cried for a really long time. Didn't know I was capable of feeling all these things at the same time." And he goes on just to finish by saying he's extremely grateful for the support from my friends, family, sponsors, competitors and fans. Would honestly not be bothered to be racing right now if it wasn't for all of you. So Gustav, yeah, we're thinking of you, and hopefully things will start to get a little bit easier, but good luck with the season.
Yeah, absolutely. On a different tone, have spotted this post on social media. It's kind of been doing the rounds the past week. It's from Alexei Vermeulen in collaboration with Factor Bikes, his sponsor. He's not someone I'd come across before, but he seems to do a lot of gravel racing, TT racing, and loves riding with his dog on his back. I'm assuming this is a bit of a joke, tongue-in-cheek, but he's saying he's been to the wind tunnel and done some testing with his dog on his back, and apparently it fills in the gaps that he wouldn't ordinarily be able to fill, and therefore makes him more aerodynamic, and he's thinking of using the dog during a TT. Yeah, I don't know really what to make of it.
I feel like he needs to have the dog on the front for that, because, you know, we're seeing all these athletes trying to put bladders and things down their front. So maybe he needs to change the dog's position and get it clinging on somehow. I mean, yeah, who knows? On a slightly more serious note, Taylor Knibb, we mentioned a few weeks ago, was going to be making her pro debut in the pro cycling team Trek Segafredo, and she raced at the US time trials on the weekend and finished an impressive 4th place, averaging 44.5k an hour. Obviously, I don't actually know how much climbing was in that, but to be up racing against the cycling pros and finishing 4th, and America has a very strong women's TT field. So, yeah, I think we're only going to see more exciting things from her.
Yeah, and I believe she only narrowly missed out on the podium by literally a few seconds, and to some big names as well in the pro cycling sport. So, very impressive. Also, Paula Findlay, she was back at the Canadian individual time trial champs, and she won it again the 2nd year in a row. And so, yeah, she is in great bike form. We've seen that over the past year, so well done to her too. Yeah,
it's cool seeing those guys crossing over. Moving to a different sport, onto running, and we like to cover a few of the ultras that catch our eye, and Western States 100 is one of the big ones, and it's quite newsworthy. There was some impressive time. So the men's race was won by Tom Evans, I think the 4th fastest time in history, in a 14:40. That was his 2nd attempt, having finished 3rd previously. And then the women's record was absolutely demolished by Courtney Dolewater. She took over an hour from the previous record. She won in a time of 15:29:34, which I think was 2 hours quicker than her previous win back in 2018.
And placing in the top 10 overall, including the men, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
We're now moving on to the Tri News, and I guess the biggest bit of news this past week has been the Ironman World Championship course reveal for Nice. Now, we obviously haven't known that course until now, and there's been a lot of speculation that it would be the current Ironman France or Ironman Nice course, because, I mean, there aren't many options around there, and it's a pretty well-tested course. However, that course is ever so slightly short, so what we can see is that there's an ever so slight tweak to that to make it up to the full 180, and the swim is going to be a deep water start, which I think is quite exciting, but I know it's not for everyone. But yeah, we have got actually a full course recce on that, where James actually head out to Nice to record on the course with Rudy von Berg as well around the course. So stay tuned, because that's going to be a pretty cool one.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing that. We've also heard some news from the PTO. Now, obviously, they're midway through their PTO Open Tour, and we were expecting 4 events in the tour, with Collins Cup being the finale, so to speak. And there were rumours that it was going to be held in Marrakesh in Morocco, which was pretty exciting and a bit of an unknown territory. Well, unfortunately, they have just announced that the Collins Cup is going to be cancelled this year. They are not putting it on. They put that down to timing and logistics that did not allow us to deliver the event to the high standards we require. Now, we've seen them upping their standards with the broadcast and trying to make these events really kind of quite spectacular. So I guess they've just decided if we can't do it well, we're not going to do it. They've also, along with that announcement, just made a few tweaks for their contracts with the pros. They're going to be aiding them all with their transportation, getting to events, and their marketing contracts. So that's going to be updated with the rankings. So nothing's going to change other than the athletes need to just kind of concentrate on their rankings, I guess. There will be 2 separate takings at the end of August and the end of this year. But more interestingly, I guess, for age groupers as well, is they're going to announce their events or the dates for their events a little earlier this time, because I know a lot of people, pros especially, when they're trying to plan their calendars, were wondering when things are going to happen. So apparently we will know at the end of October exactly what next year is going to look like in the world of the PTO.
That'll make a big difference.
It will, won't it?
Also last week, James and Heather, yourself, actually discussed the Olympic esports week that has been happening this past week, and cycling was involved in it. And you did joke that it would be nice if there was triathlon there in the future. Well, it turns out they actually did have a multi-sport event in there. They had a duathlon exhibition event, so kind of a bit of a test. It wasn't full-on serious event, but they did it in a relay format with, I believe it was five teams representing 4 continents. It was a 750-metre run, 6K bike, 750-metre run, obviously no swim. It was all around the Zwift Scotland World. But that did happen and means that we will hopefully see duathlon or triathlon in the future.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Well, now on to the race results, and what a day it was at Challenge Roth. Now, actually, just to backtrack ever so slightly, the pros were actually sent an email pre-race asking them to send in photos of any special aerobar setups to the DTU, the German Triathlon Union, to check whether they were legal, because we are seeing some rather interesting setups lately. Also, they announced that aero inserts into a front of a tri-suit were banned. And again, we've seen that happening quite a lot with bladders and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, that was not allowed. Anyway, on to race day. We were able to actually witness the start of the pro race, but unfortunately, very little after that because we had our own race. So stay tuned for that. But the swim was very exciting to watch, and I think actually a lot happened there, which set up the rest of the day. So in the men's race, we noticed that Magnus Ditlev came out with a front group, including the likes of Sam Laidlow, Ben Canute, Daniel Bakkegaard, Patrick Lange, which is really exciting and just, well, obviously set up Magnus incredibly well going onto the bike. And the same in the women's. I mean, we were all, well, we thought when the commentator said that Daniela Ryf was on Fenella's feet that it must be a mistake. But actually she was, and they'd broken well clear of the field and, well, just made it very hard to look past Daniela, taking the win from there on. Yeah,
it was quite, after the swim, we did already start to sort of guess who was going to win both the men's and the women's race. So back to the men's race, obviously Magnus Ditlev, being such a strong bike rider, rode away along with Sam Laidlow and Daniel Bakkegaard. Daniel Bakkegaard didn't manage to hold the pace past 60k. So Magnus Ditlev kept the power down. Sam Laidlow managed to hang on to his wheel, but Magnus came in with a new bike record, or course record, for Challenge Roth of a 3:57.45, and that was almost 12 minutes clear of the quick runners Ben Canute and Patrick Lange, notably.
Well, then the two were toe-to-toe on the run for about 10 kilometres until, sadly, Sam Laidlow started to falter, perhaps due to the very hard bike, or it may be due to the health reasons that he'd been struggling with earlier this year. Anyway, Magnus was away and clearly going to take the win, finishing a ridiculous 7:24.40, setting a new Roth course record, and second overall in iron distance records behind Christian Blumenfeld's 7:21.12 in Cozumel, which was current assisted on the swim, so take from that what you will. However, hats off also to Patrick Lange, who just ran through the field, finishing just 5 minutes and 24 behind Magnus, so eating into that deficit quite considerably, posting a new iron distance run record, beating his previous run record, posting a 2:30.27, and then Ben Canute rounding out that podium.
Well, apparently, Patrick was saying that actually he didn't know that he was on course for the run record, and he thought he was running around a 2:33 or something, and no one told him, and he did quite a lot of celebration coming into the final K.
So it could have been quicker.
So, yeah, I mean, he's like, he could have broken that 2:30.
And also, as we mentioned earlier on in React, so Patrick was wearing some Adidas prototype shoes. Interestingly, Challenge Roth decided not to adopt the 40mm max stack height on shoes, so he was able to go wild and use these prototype shoes that he's been wearing, and well, clearly helped a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. Well, back to the women's race. I mean, I think all bets were on Daniela after that swim, and she did carry out as expected and stormed away on the bike and, yeah, had her own race going on. She also got a new bike record, so the conditions were pretty perfect out there. A time of 4:22:56. And then I think the reports were to get the course record overall, she had to run a 3:01 marathon, and she smashed that with a 2:51:54. So broke the record by 10 minutes. So the Chrissy Wellington's record that has stood since 2011, and there's been lots of talks of when's that going to go. And well, it certainly went and got absolutely demolished, didn't it? The race then seemed to be happening more for the rest of the podium, and Lisa Norden had a really strong second half of her bike, so she came off in T2 in second place. Fenella Langridge holding on to third after that strong swim, but then all changed in the run, and we had the likes of Anne Haug and Laura Philipp to watch out for as they were running through. But it was Anne Haug who posted the fastest run of the day, a 2:44:45, to make it up to second place on the podium, and Laura Philipp overtaking Fenella to finish third.
Yeah, and also what was very cool was that Jan Frodeno and Chrissy Wellington were both at the finish line to welcome them in and give them their medals, particularly obviously for Daniela, and Chrissy's record has stood for so long, so that was really cool. Well done to everyone there. That was a phenomenal race, and as I said, stay tuned for our video. We also had Ironman France this weekend, which was a male pro only event. Notably, Cam Worth was backing up an Ironman after just doing an Ironman last weekend in Klagenfurt, which he obviously punched a ticket to Kona with. And for whatever reason, Cam decided he wanted to do another Ironman the following weekend. Unfortunately, he didn't quite get onto the podium. He finished just shy in fourth, but it was Clement Mignon that took the win there. He was actually, I believe, down for the start list in Challenge Roth, but I think a wise decision to do Ironman France, and paid out there. And then Bart Ernot's taking second, and Jonas Hoffman in third.
Yeah, we also had Ironman Coeur d'Alene, and there was a bit of drama for Sam Long at this race. We were excited to see him race the full distance, and turned out that apparently he had 3 flats, and then race support brought him a wheel, but it was not compatible. Yeah,
so apparently race support only had rim brake wheels, which I know that a lot of people are still on rim brakes, but the pros are mostly on latest top-of-the-range bikes from their sponsors, which are pretty much predominantly disc brakes. So for wheel support or race support to only be carrying rim brake wheels is, I don't know, it's like beyond me. I don't know what they were thinking. So yes, he tried to fix it, and that was game over for him.
Yeah, a bit gutting, and also I think gutting for us, just the spectators who wanted to see Sam Long race the full, but hopefully he's not damaged his legs too much and can find something else in the calendar soon. So that left it still an all-American podium for the men's race. Chris Lieferman taking the win, Matthew Marquardt second, and Justin Metzler third. And then the women's race was also 1-2 for America, Jodie Robertson followed by Hayley Chura, and then for representing Canada, Melanie McQuaid in third place.
Yeah, we also had Ironman 70.3 Elsinore, which is a women's pro-only event. That was won by Olivia Mitchell, in second Anna Bergston, and third was Kate Curran.
Well, over in Canada, there was the 70.3 Mont Tremblant Ironman, and sadly, it had to be cancelled. You might have heard there's been really quite horrific wildfires happening in Canada, and the direction of the wind that's blowing basically meant for a very last-minute cancellation, just 30 minutes before the race they called this. Now, the air conditions were obviously just not safe to be racing, and it's, the athletes even found ash on top of their bikes. So I think it must have been a lot of mixed emotions of obviously wanting to race but not wanting to risk your health, and also the safety for the whole event. And Tamara Jewett was quite outspoken about this with a couple of posts of just how to deal with the sort of the mental shock of being so ready to race and then it being taken away from you, but out of the hands of the organisers.
I think sometimes with my race day nerves on race morning, if someone said, hey, the race is cancelled, I'd be like, oh, yes.
At the time you might, but then you'd be like, that training.
Absolutely. Also, WTCS Montreal was affected by this. We had the individual race on the Saturday, which we'll get into very shortly. But on Sunday, we were meant to have the mixed relay, and unfortunately that was also cancelled for the same reasons, for health and safety of the athletes. But we did get the individual race in on the Saturday, and that was won by Matt Hauser in the men's race, obviously. Manuel Macias in second, second and Helle Geens in third. It was Beth Potter that took the win in the women's race ahead of Leonie Perrault in second and Summer Rappaport in third.
Yeah, and I think also notably the men's race, the race to get on the podium was incredibly tight because Tim Helwig was 1 second off Yellow Greens, who was third, and then Christian Blumenfeld was 1 second behind him. So, some fast racing.
Cool, yeah. Also upcoming then in the next week or two, we have Ironman 70.3 Les Star Bulls we also have Ironman Frankfurt, which is a women's pro only. That's the European Championships as well, and Ironman 70.3 Andorra. We're now on to photos and videos that you guys have sent in to us. We've been asking for you to send in some transition photos on race day, and you have absolutely delivered. So thank you very much for that. Well, for this month coming, are going to be asking for your broken post-race photos. You know the photo I mean. That photo where you're sat up against the railing, maybe your head in your hands, wondering what on earth your body wants right now. Send in anything like that, any funny photos post-race, and we'll talk about them on here. Maybe with a bit of a race recap, what went on as well. Use the photo uploader link that's on screen right now. But now diving in to this week's and starting with one quite similar to that, and it's from Sebastian from Ironman 70.3 Bintan. He said, "This was my first 70.3 ever, came in undertrained, life and inexperience. Cramped on the bike, spent 35 minutes getting back at it in the hilly course of Bintan. Photo is of T2, trying to change my socks and putting my run shoes on. Finished the run 32 minutes after the cutoff. Also, my wife and I, 6th wedding anniversary on that day." So he said on 20th of August 2023, I'll be attempting my first full Ironman in Copenhagen. Blimey. I mean, if you felt undertrained for this one, you haven't got long, Sebastian, until that full Ironman. But well done, and thanks for sharing the photo.
Yeah, nice one. Next from Carissa, this is actually a video, and it's a specialised shiv with a DIY disc wheel cover and vinyl made following our video with none other than Mark, which you were very proud of that one, weren't you? They say, doing a quick check over of the bike before I left it overnight before the race. Oh, and it was absolutely pouring in the rain. Yeah, we can see that. I hope it was a bit nicer on race day. But
it's an awesome design you've gone for there as well. Well done. Next one from Alistair, and this is from Ontario, Canada. He said, "My dad came to support my first triathlon and snapped this picture in transition of me in T2. It was a lot of fun, if exhausting. I'm excited for the next one." Good stuff. Lovely.
We've got this from Deborah. It's her Specialised, and she's in Shieldag, and she says, all set up for a very big hilly cycle after a jellyfish-infested swim. Oh, poor thing. I hope the cycle was better than the swim. And
then also from Keltman, we have these images and a video actually posted into our inbox. But unfortunately, there was no description or author or user that sent it in to us. Maybe this was Deborah too, we don't know. Anyway, on the finish line of Keltman, so congrats to you guys. They actually proposed, or he proposed to her, whoever she is. Do get in touch and let us know who you are and the story behind this all. But thanks for sharing that with us too. Say what?
We have a great one this week from Bike and Dog Trips. It doesn't really need much introduction, so sit and listen to this. Pedalling through the countryside green, Mark, Heather and James on the scene, cycling towards Stonehenge with delight to witness the solstice shine so bright. Cycling down the winding road towards Stonehenge they go. Summer solstice in their sights, the sun is set to glow. Mark leads the way with a steady pace. Heather follows with a smile on her face. James brings up the rear with a steady grace. Together they cycle to this sacred place. With each pedal stroke they draw near to witness the magic of the year. The sun sets and rises anew, a cycle that never ends, it's true. Arriving at their destination, the ancient stones stand in celebration. The journey complete, their spirits uplifted, cycling to Stonehenge, a memory gifted. Mark, Heather and James, a trio of friends, together on this journey that never ends, cycling to Stonehenge, a memory to keep of a summer solstice they'll forever reap.
Almost brought tears to my eye. This was obviously under our longest day challenge, where we cycled from Pembrokeshire to Stonehenge, and that was very lovely. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Thank you for writing that.
Oh, Mark's got a bit emotional. I think we need to wrap up the show here, don't we?
But thanks ever so much for tuning into the show today. That is it for the show. But do stay tuned for our Challenge Roth relay video that is coming up in the next week, where we are soaking up the atmosphere here in Challenge Roth. We've had an absolute blast, and we want to show you guys what it's all about here.
Oh, yeah, we do. And going back to, if you want something to watch right now, if you got a little bit emotional from that poem, well, you might get emotional, or you might just enjoy watching our longest day video, where we cycled a very long way.
Very long way.